Okay, we're going to focus on number 11. So, if you have all terms on one side, we're looking for factors that multiply to -4. That adds to -3, which is -4 and 1. So let's go here just like before. Now, rather than the left-hand side being x and x, which would make x squared, we need to make e to the 2x. And as you guys know, when you have your exponential rules, if you have common base and you are multiplying, you actually add the powers. So you would end up with e to the 2x. And that is why on the left-hand side we have e to the x, e to the x. Because e to the x times e to the x is e to the 2x. So once we fully factored, we set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So we get e to the x is 4 and e to the x is -1. Then we can do log base e both sides. Left cancels. On the right, we can put this in our calculator either as log 4 divided by log e, or we can put it in our calculator as ln 4. Same thing, because remember, log base e is ln, natural log. So we would get 1.38. Then if we do log -1 of divided by log e, or natural log of -1, log base e, ln, same thing, then we will get error. Doesn't exist. So we only have one answer, about 1.38. And the last one that we're going to focus on is number 12. So you look at one side, you just have to pick the side you want to work on first. So I picked the left-hand side. Say, okay, I want to get rid of this 3. So I'll do log base 3 on both sides. Log base 3 of 3 cancels. So now we have the x. Now over on the right side, we end up with log base 3 of 4. And then there's that x to the -1 above the 4. Now the power rule says, right, when we expand, that you can take the power down in front, just technically multiply, right? Power rule. So we're multiplying the quantity x minus 1 as we bring it down times log base 3 of 4. Remember, log base 3 of 4 is a number, so when we put that in our calculator, either math, alpha math, or log of 4 divided by log 3, we get 1.26. You then, from there, it's algebra. We distribute, right? Combine like terms, solve, and we get x is 4.85. Number 10 is definitely tricky, so it's a harder one. Remember, if we have a trinomial, we want the first term to be e raised to the 2x. Kind of think of it as like x squared plus some kind of x in e to the x and then a constant, right? So it's not really set up that way. So first we needed to manipulate it. We know that a base to a negative power means that we look at the reciprocal raised to a positive power. So e to the -x becomes 1 over e to the x, and that -4 is being multiplied in front. And that's why we end up with -4 over e to the x, because -4 times 1 is -4 up top, and the e to the x down bottom. Now, like I said, we need the square terms first, or the e to the 2x term first. So we just say, what can we do? Well, we multiply all terms, plus or minus separated parts are terms. We multiply all terms on both sides by e to the x. So e to the x times e to the x, like we said before, is e raised to the 2x, because you add the powers, same base. When you have e to the x times -4 over e to the x, the e to the x is canceled, that's why you get -4, and then -4 times e to the x is e to the x. So we end up right here, which is similar to one of the last problems we did. So then we asked ourselves, is there a combo that multiplies to -4 that adds to -4? There isn't, so we use the quadratic formula. Now rather than saying x equals whatever we have in the quadratic formula, notice we said e to the x equals, because this doesn't just say x squared. So e to the x equals is quadratic formula. And once we solve the quadratic formula, we get e to the x equals 2 plus or minus 2 root 2. So then if we put that in our calculator, if you put 2 times square root 2 in our calculator, it's about 2.8. and we add that to 2, we get about 4.8. So e to the x equals 4.8. So then if we have log base e here, log base e here, we say log base e of 4.8, put that in our calculator, put it in as ln of 4.8, and we get 1.57. Similarly, if we know that we have 2 minus 2.8, we have negative 0.8, so e to the x equals negative 0.8, we would do log base e, cancel, so we have x equals, you can either write log base e negative 0.8 or ln negative 0.8, but there's no value. So our only solution is 1.57.